We are to the last 2 episodes, people. Finally! I have no idea who's still watching any of this. But we are finally to the last 2 episodes of the Chinese drama Detective that was filmed in 2020. Let's go. Episode 25. Observations. 2 of them. 1. I get that Zhejian doesn't want Tan killed. And I also don't entirely understand why on earth Tan insisted on ratting out Changmin. However, Zhejian was the one that insisted Tan's reaction to scenarios like this, his upholding of justice, etc., is what makes him him. And yet now she's mad and upset at him for doing it. How well she knows him, and yet she doesn't know him at all, does she? To be consistent in what he believes, to be consistently himself, Tan has to tell the truth here. Would he have said anything if no one had asked him? Maybe not. If Bing Wen hadn't looked him in the eye and said what he did? Maybe not. But for Tan to be Tan, he kind of had to say yes, he's the rebel. Didn't he? That this is her reaction? Number 2, wow, that poor family, face palming, just came back from the dead and they're off to jail / execution again. Ugh. What I specifically liked about this episode, 2 things. 1, the brief conversation between Tan and Mirror. I don't even know where to start. It is this episode we see him again. Wasn't it Tan telling Mirror it's about more than just solving this case / finding the right answer, etc.? And now here's the chaos. Here's the destruction. And why? Because hardly anyone wanted the truth. And all I want to know is what is happening with Mirror, that it's him explaining to Tan basically what Tan explained to him previously. That solving cases is about more than merely exposing the truth. I don't think their points were exactly the same, but either way, it's quite an interesting change to me that Mirror was bent on making the doctor's wife admit that it was her that did it, and yet here he's like, dude, what was the point in revealing that Changmin is a rebel? And 2 that I specifically liked. Remember way ages ago, I don't even remember where it was that I said it, but I did say somewhere that near the end of it, Depan is the best friend ever. When you go through something, I have to sit and camp on this for a minute. Like I said with Changmin, it's not like I don't understand what it's like when you lose someone, how badly it can crush you. When you lose someone, how do people around you react? In a way, more than watching the character cry and scream and vent, etc. over losing this person, what kind of made me cry more was the way the friend reacted to it. I was like, and here we have them sitting in the jail, and Depan asks Tan a question. And I don't remember how it all went because it was a while that I watched it. But he explained something and Depan goes, okay, but how does that answer the question that I asked you? Because what he's asking is, so how did your mother die? And Tan tells him. And what is Depan's reaction? He's crying. I am crying over his reaction when Tan tells him. That is a good friend. That is a good friend right there. When someone is in pain because they lost someone, a lot of people try to help by saying things. If you really want to help someone, quite regularly, it isn't saying something that's helping. It's just being there. It's just putting your arm around them. It's just holding them close and letting them know without words that you're there for them. And now I'm starting to choke up, so camped long enough. Let's move on. What I specifically disliked about this episode, 3 things. 1, what on earth is with that utter chaos? I mean, literally, every other mob scene is so clean. And then here, boom. I'm assuming it's a symbolic thing, considering Changmin's spiel when they're heading back to Tanjin / Tan's changing view of the world. Maybe it's supposed to make me feel so utterly uncomfortable and weird? I'm not sure, but I still don't like it. Number 2, and then in all capitals with a bunch of exclamation marks and question marks and like, and then after everything you put me through, you randomly kill Liu and Bengwin off screen? Unforgivable. Moving on. 3, yes, nothing comes out of the blue is literally all there, except Zhejian with the DID. But seriously, this case is literally never ending. Stop the carriage, cause there is still another killer on the loose. Head walling. What I had questions about in this episode. Number 1, the state Mir is in. Because I know the truth about how my mother died, says Tan, when Dapan comments on Mir not being around. Which means Mir is keeping his word and staying put because he said he would when Tan remembers. He did say he always keeps his word, by the way. I just remembered that. He said he always keeps his promise, and he did promise that he'd stay, or like that he'd go away if Tan remembers. Look at that. That's an interesting observation. And I still don't understand whether Mira was wrong about something and didn't know it, or if he was simply that shocked that Tan figured it all out. Which do you think it is? Because I'm leaning towards him not knowing, which brings up a lot of other questions on my mind. Like I said, how did Tan find out? Number 2, why would Deputy Ba think that Tan did any of this for Zhejian? Unless he was just saying that to pull some kind of trick with it, given her father saying later that Ba is suspecting him. So did Tan realize he was pulling tricks and was silent to counter it? Because his silence seems to be strengthening it. So why was he silent? This whole reasoning behind why he let Changmin go is getting so confusing. Way back there in the cave when he let him go. And at that moment, it made it look like he let him go because he knew his secret and he didn't want him blurting it out in front of Zhejian, so he let him go so he'd be quiet. That's what it felt like back then, and yet we've got at least 3 other theories all of a sudden within the last 2 episodes, like 3 different theories coming out on why he actually let him go. Was it somehow to protect Zhejian? Was it because he actually agreed with Changmin, but he didn't want to admit it? What was his actual reasoning for letting him go back then? Number 3, and so, Tan's mother committed suicide? But did she mean for Tan to die too? Or was she the one that hid him in the jar to save his life? Why did she commit suicide? And if she was saving him while doing it, then double why'd she do it? None of that is explained. Or, if it is, it was so lost in translation somewhere that it went straight over my head. Especially since Dapan asks if they should say either the same poem or something like that as they head off to their possible execution. The poem is about dying without regrets, I think, whether you die by suicide or not. Why did Tan's mother die? Number 4, so Changmin says that Tan covered for him because he did think at some level that he was right. So now we have 3 theories on why he did that. Because Changmin threatened him with his secret being exposed to Zhejian, to cover for Zhejian, which seems to be what she thinks, or because he did agree with Changmin. Was it a combo? Sigh. Episode 26. What I specifically liked? Changmin defending Dapan for the win. Number 2, Tan's hair in the end. Okay, I'm a sucker for hair like that. I don't like super short hair. I like when there's hair around people's faces. What I specifically disliked? Number 1, the music video montage. Hatred seething. Okay, let's camp on this for a second, because this is only not even quite 11 minutes. As I'm blabbering, it will turn into 11 minutes. for some really weird reason that I will never understand, so it will be completely unfathomable to me until the day I die. Why do so many people, I don't think English shows do this much. This could be like a whole topic for a whole nother video. Why are Asian dramas so obsessed with putting montages in when people die? I don't even know exactly why. Maybe it's because to me, like, you put a music video montage, usually there's music involved. If there's no music involved, depending how they do it, I have actually seen montages that were done really well. Again, actually, referring to the show that I just finished watching, the one where someone lost someone and it was the friend's reaction that really got me. There was one death in there where there was a bit of a montage while she was thinking about it. And actually, the way they did that one was actually really well done. There was no extra music, and it was short, and it kept, like, there was a flash of this memory, and then the girl's face as she's thinking about it, and then a flash of this memory. That was actually done really well. But when they literally make it a freaking music video, and when they go on about it for a minute and a half, and if they show anything, it's, well, she's falling, and it's so dramatic. What you're doing right now is manipulating my emotions. Don't do that. And I'll stop there. Moving on to 2 that I specifically disliked. Why the crap is that guy of all guys working for Japan? The arrogant servant. I hate him. 3, after everything you put me through, Changmin and Chunting are not married. Are you still wondering why I don't care about Chunting breaking down over Changmin's death? They still are not even a couple, never mind married. Moving on. Number 4, the whole cliff scene. It's too bright / sunny / cheerful, so completely out of place for that cliff, considering it's the only time that it's like that. So I didn't think of it until someone else in a reaction to something else made me wonder, like the chaos mob scene, if this is supposed to be symbolic of something. If it is someone, please tell me what. Because maybe if I knew, I wouldn't dislike it so much. Whereas right now, it just makes me so uncomfortable. Especially combined with the fact that Zhang still exists. Like, seriously, he went whoosh out the window and came whoosh back in. And seriously, he has a pathetic enough to use the exact same trick as everyone else did. Like, what the crap? Couldn't you at least be original about it? And I know this is just to set up for a second season, even though I kind of highly doubt there is a second season actually coming. They, like, set it up so that they could easily make a second season, but it's still weird. Maybe mostly because of the brightness, etc. But the scene is so weird and so out of place. What I had questions about. Number 1. In terms of DID, what is the most likely response to a situation like this? Is it plausible that Tan was able to keep the whole memory of Jajan dying without a split happening? That was a pretty massive trauma, wasn't it? So is it plausible that he can actually keep that whole memory and not split? If he split because of the death of his mother, why didn't he split here? That seems really weird to me. Number 2, why does Zhang saying that Jajan is still alive equal Tan not bringing Zhang to justice and quite possibly even mean him helping Zhang take his revenge? Was the implications not just that she was alive, but that Zhang was holding her hostage? Because, like, why does saying that just automatically mean that he's definitely going to help him? That's an odd assumption. Number 3, why is Dahan's response to go running to uncover a mirror? Obviously, this means Mirror is still around, and I'm guessing they haven't talked since Mirror told him to go away. But after all of that, Why does Tan seem to either want or suddenly believe he needs Mirror's help now? Ooh, the possibilities for where this could be going. Seriously, where's the rest of the story? So many. That's the end of specifics of specific episodes. So the overall, where's the rest of the story? So many questions they did not answer. So many things they brought up within this show. So many things they all of a sudden threw at you at the very end of it. Where's the rest of the story? I don't even know. Did this story actually come from a book? Was it a lot of the Asian stuff, I mean, like the Chinese stuff and whatnot, a lot of it actually you find out that it came from a book or something, or is based on a book or something. Is this one? I'm not sure. I don't remember if I haven't found anything about it coming from a book. No, where's the rest of the story? Such big ultimate comments / questions. 1. Am I right that Mirror could be considered not just a persecutor, but a protector as well? Number 2. Who is their father / where is he? Number 3. Why did their mother die? How does the Hangshan clan play into it all? Why were he and his mother living in a wine cellar? And why did it burn down? Number 4. When did the DID start? Because one single event can't cause DID. So was Mirror the first alter, or were there others before him? Is there a bigger system here? Going back to that very brief explosion of voices before the second time Mirror fronted. Is the root of the DID system related to the Hangshan clan? Overall, big like and dislike, it really was an intriguing mystery with a pretty incredible overall plot. Both executed, I mean, how solidly thought out plan and dedication to it. Wow. Like I said, that bad guy. And in how it's discovered. That was pretty cool too. But the amount of time they spent on explaining the wrong conclusion starts to drive me nuts pretty fast. Because they do it more than once, since everything is connected. So they don't just over-explain the wrong thing, they over-explain the wrong thing multiple times, well, starting at the very beginning every time. And by the time you reach the right conclusion, you're so sick of hearing them explain what happened, since they are once again over-explaining rather than simply touching on what they got wrong, that you kinda want to start screaming. Or is that just me? Bing Wen. Here's my question about him. This is the second show I've seen where someone was acting for a long period of time, 10 years, that they have a mental illness. That was done a little too perfectly. I mean, I don't care how good of an actor you are. To be that absolutely foolproof for that long, and then, boom, you make the absolute perfect switch to being 100% different. Interesting trope, but absolutely not in the slightest itty-bittiest, tiniest little bit believable, in my opinion. That's not possible. It just is not possible. Things I noticed that are disappointing. Almost all confusion and dissociation that is shown is because of the medication. Dissociative identity disorder has varying degrees of amnesia and dissociation, but no matter what degree it's to, it's not dissociative identity disorder if those things aren't present. And it's a little disappointing that this show makes it look like they aren't there outside of the medications. Although, to be fair, because they chose to use the medication, that literally took away all the opportunity to show a lot of this, like, these things. So add this to the pile of reasons to wish they hadn't used the medications, or at least not to the degree they did. Because it literally wiped out any opportunity to show this stuff without medications, because the medications were so predominantly there. Oh, now this feels like incredibly anticlimactic because, maybe I should have slowed down and actually watched those 2 episodes before I reacted to them. I'm done reacting to Detective, just out of the blue, all of a sudden. And it's taken me so long with such a long break in between, that this just feels so anticlimactic. I'm done, people. I'm done. What was my point? What did you get out of that? What did I get out of that? After all that complaining I did, do you still believe me that when I say that I like the show? There's the problem. It's like some other shows. Like, there's a whole lot of stuff, like I say, that well, not a whole lot. Actually, the first time around, I didn't skip quite as much. I do like Changmin. I actually did. He was really hard to connect with because he was so Stonewall so much, and he was kind of confusing in many ways. Like I say, his, like, extreme holding on to of his family, while at the same time being so incredibly disconnected from them. Like, he's definitely a part of them and will definitely do everything to protect them, but at the same time, he's not. And it's kind of weird. But like I say, in that one, episode 25, is it? When he comes, or is it episode 24, where he comes back and you actually get to see how cool he is? Could they have not had that throughout the whole show? Like, that actually would have made the show so much cooler if you had seen that in more of it, like... But instead, they have to completely distract with this stupid flippin' love triangle. That isn't even a love triangle, sorry, it's a love square because they added Japan to it. So... And then, like I say, Jang, the first time through it, I was kind of meh. But, like, the second time through it, knowing who he's supposed to be, I mean... Like I say, nothing came out of the blue. He's the son of that servant that they mentioned. So it's not it's not out of the blue. But at the same time, the timing of when they brought it in, you spent that long in those episodes having him getting married to Chun-Ting. What was that? Ridiculous. And then just whoosh him out of the story. And then just randomly whoosh him back into the story for that weird, awkward scene that, like, doesn't fit with anything in the entire rest of the drama. Like, you'd almost swear it was a completely different director that directed it. What is with all those completely different colors? Like, what was that supposed to be symbolizing? Because that was so weird. Then, yeah, Zhejiang, it's like the show changed its mind about what they were going to do or something. I don't think the story itself necessarily got changed because it is so solid. It feels like they knew from start to finish what they were doing with the story. It's not like in some shows where they suddenly change their mind and you can kind of tell because all of a sudden the story just doesn't fit anymore. This story is consistent. The whole mystery of what actually happened, who the bad guys are, what their intent was, how they carried it out, it's all consistent. It's not out of the blue. It's not weirdly disjointed. It does fit. The story fits. So I think they knew right from the very beginning. This was planned out right from the very beginning. Some shows, they don't have their complete story until partway through it, and you can kind of tell. This one, I'm pretty sure, had a complete story. However, Zhejiang herself, it almost feels like they changed their mind about what they were doing with her. It does almost feel like she was actually supposed to be gone for good when she left. Or if she came back into it, there was some different way they were going to bring her back into it. Because the way she left, and then the way she came back into the story was just so disjointed, so weird, that, like, it literally feels like the people who were writing this show took her out of the story, fans went, where'd Zhejiang go? So they went, oops, I guess we better bring her back in because our ratings are suddenly dropping through the floor. So they brought her back in because people didn't want her to go. That's literally what it felt like, and that's a big reason. I mean, like, I already spent 2 separate videos explaining why I hate episode 18 and her whole comeback and all that stuff, but that is a big part of it. It feels like the people that wrote the show suddenly changed their mind. She was supposed to be gone, and they brought her back. That's honestly what it felt like. There was that one scene, like I say, when they go back to the inn again, and when Tan gets attacked and all that stuff, that felt like, I mean, that was really cool. That felt like everybody was acting more like they did before, and I really liked that. And then, yeah, I really like Mir. I am convinced that there's a whole lot of layers and depth there, and that is something that automatically makes me like characters and makes me drawn to them, is when I can tell that there's a lot more depth to them, and I really like Tan, and everything he goes through, and, like, I love it when characters, like, I don't like character-driven stories. That's not my kind of story, but I need characters that are driving the story. I need depth to characters. I need growth in characters. If a character just stays stagnant, if a character doesn't need to grow, that's one thing. But if they do need to grow and they don't, or they backslide, But when you have a character like Tan who actually has growth throughout the show, look at the way that he thought of Mira and the way he treated Mira at the beginning. Look what happens throughout the progression of the show as he does come to some kind of understanding about Mira and about his own past and about everything surrounding Mira's existence and all of this stuff. Look what it does to Tan. And my darn laptop's fan is being super loud because it's thinking super hard. But I want to record this before I completely lose the thought. The overall reaction to Detective. The further it went in it, I don't know if you noticed or not, but there were several scenes. Like when I first started reacting to it, one of the main things I was reacting to was specifically Tan and Mir and their relationship. And all of that stuff. But the further it went, I kind of almost started skimming over the actual conversations that the two of them had. And I just wanted to say, like, there's probably two main reasons why I did that, not even counting the fact that it's been so long. One of the main reasons being that those scenes are specifically bringing up DID and what it means to have DID. So in a way, I'm afraid to specifically go into details and reacting on those because, like I say, I don't have DID and I don't want to be putting words into systems' mouths. I don't know how realistic all the portrayal is. And it's also partially because, I mean, part of it, just there were several of those scenes, several of the discussions they had that are just so deep and like so emotional and so etc. that it's hard to put words for them to them. Like they kind of, you gotta go watch them and have them speak for themselves. Like the whole flashback where you finally find out why Mira exists. The whole scene where Tan is like willing to hold a gun to his head instead of begging Mir for answers. So like the whole conversation that led to Tan being stuck inside and Mir coming out. And then like the whole conversation that Mir and Tan had when Mir goes back inside during episode 18. And then the whole discussion that they had, the very brief discussion they have in episode 25, where he says, just go away. Those discussions and conversations in particular, and it feels like there's a few other ones, but most of the times when it's Tan and Mir having interactions, the majority of what I loved about this show was them and Tan and Depan and Mir and all of that. So like I said that before, those were the main things I loved about the show and what I will always love about this show and all that stuff. But the reasons why I wasn't particularly going in depth into a lot of those conversations, yeah, that's kind of wise because it was more handling directly the DID and I don't know how to accurately discuss that. And also because they're just such powerful scenes that I'm like, So that's why I kind of sort of showed some of them and left hanging what my thoughts were. That's just a little bit of an extra thought with a weird camera angle because I'm holding it up here and my computer went quiet, but I'm still holding it, so there's that added in there in the middle of it. Because of Tan and Mir, and because of Tan and Depan, and because each of those three on their own, and because of certain things about Jajan, and because of the consistency of the story and like how well that was put together and stuff, I just thought of another thing that I don't want to completely forget to mention. One thing about Detective that I actually really liked about the storyline itself that I completely forgot to mention in anything that I've done so far is from the beginning of the show all the way through it, they are like presenting it like this is a fact, like it's a no-duh fact, like it happened, like everybody believes it. You're led to believe that Bing Wen is the third brother and all the rest of this stuff. But there's a trick to it. And that's actually, I find it quite interesting. That is actually quite inventive of this show. to come up with for how it's still not possible to bring people back from the dead. These people didn't come back from the dead. They are still dead. But how did everybody get convinced that they came back from the dead? That's actually pretty ingenious. That's actually something I really like about this show. That's a pretty unique idea. That was cool. So in terms of the actual story and how it held the story together, I actually gave this show, by the time I finished it, I ended up giving this show 5 stars, plus an extra little heart, because of, the acting was very well done on certain people's parts. Namely and mainly the part of the main actor, and I forget his name again. I didn't really know it. I've never seen him on anything else, but within this one, playing the differences between Tan and Mir, that was really well done. He did that really well, his acting. So, yeah, that's overall finishing thoughts on it. And the whole reason I was doing these reactions was because I was, hopping out of my seat when someone said that it's a Jekyll and Hyde show, and I don't think it is. And there you go. That's my reaction to Detective, episode by episode and overall, and I don't know how else to wrap it up. Especially since it has now been, I forget exactly how long, but it's been, So, Detective, if you have seen it, what did you think about it? If you haven't seen it, did I make you more interested in it, or did I make you completely uninterested in it, and why? What's your thoughts on some of these things? What's your thoughts on the reality of DID and how this show portrayed it? I don't know. I guess that's it. Thanks for sticking with me on this journey. If you jumped into the middle of it somewhere, then I hope you back up at some point. Whatever. I guess that's the end of it. Thank you for watching. Bye.